Are we on? Yes, we're on. Hello, guys. Okay, today's project, we're talking something simple and fun and whimsy, and who cares if it's lopsided on one side and not so great on the other. That's kind of the Sunday I'm having today. But sometimes it's great to break out of the box and do something different. And I am definitely going to break out of the box today. I hope you enjoy it. Okay, I'm going to be working on a 507 greeting card. They are pre-folded, and I do offer this on my supply list if you're interested. And I've seen where they wet down and then tear around the edges. I think that's so cool. But I didn't do that today. So, and I'm not going to try to not get paint on this back side. So I'm opening it up and I'm going to do the background colors all over it. And then once it's done, it's dried, we're going to put a whimsy looking butterfly here. Very whimsy, I promise. And then up here at the top is going to have a saying or a statement. Okay, so let's get started. And you can do this on whatever surface you have handy. This would work fine on a small board, a serving tray. Oh my goodness, there's so many different things. A small canvas it would look cute on. Okay, so let's get going. The background colors are basically mimicking what the colors are that are on the butterfly, but a whole lot more white will be used in the background. We're going to use a little bit of pink. And if you don't have pink, just whip you up some red and white together. You want to do the same thing with your red like we do with the black. You'll put a little amount of white down and then put some red over to the side and then mix it till you get that right pink that you want. So I'm doing pink. I'm doing some white. Actually, I want that pink a little lighter, so I'm going to throw some white in there. We're going to do a little bit of orange. I'll throw some white on that one. No exact science here, guys. And some yellow. Come on, there we go. I hope everybody's having a pretty good day. You get an opportunity to sit down and paint. It's always a good day for that. All right, I'm getting some water. Gonna water down this white. We really need it to move on that surface, so it's I would say a loose gravy. Not quite a jello consistency, but a loose gravy. Same thing with the pink. And again, I could be doing some of these steps here off camera. And I do sometimes, but sometimes I have to remind myself this is a beginner's class. And, folks that have never messed with paint before, they kind of need to see these different steps. A little bit more water. Rinsing my brush, now I'm getting some more water. We're going to mix up that orange and white. Nice sherbet color. I've been hankering something awful. Y'all remember going to baby showers back in the day? And they had that lime that had that big old punch bowl with lime sherbet ice cream in there. And I think they would mix it either with ginger ale or mix it with Sprite. Oh my goodness. I made a pig myself on that punch. Here lately I've been hankering it. I don't know why. So next grocery run, I think that's what I'm going to do is get some lime sherbet ice cream and some Sprite and mix it up and have a nice little treat. Okay, watered down the yellow and the white. Most of the colors are pretty pastel looking except for that pink. I probably should whiten it down a little bit more, but I'm going to treat the pink very similar to as I, do the blue. I'll just barely touch into the pink. Okay, and again, you don't have to do both sides, but to me, it's a card that's going to have art on it, something that someone's done, and I think whoever I decide to give this to might appreciate all of it being color, having color on it. Okay, I'm using my big filbert brush. I wet it down first. Always wet your brush down first. Wiping it off, making sure I don't have any water right here. And we're going to start with the white. Filling my brush up. And really the background has very, very little color to it. We want to kind of keep it faint. Have a little bit of that pink. I might clean my brush between getting different colors. Getting a little bit of that orange. Let's put this back where that belongs. Okay. Grabbing a little bit of that white. Let's grab some of that yellow. Well, all I'm doing is wiping my brush off right now. I'm not even going to rinse it. Grab a little bit more of that white. Now I'm rinsing my brush because I want to go back to that pink. Just dancing the color around. This is a personal preference. It's totally up to you how much you want to put on yours, how much paint, how much dancing around you want to do with it. Grabbing more of the white. We tone that yellow down just a smidge. Grabbing a little bit of that pink. And of course this would probably, yeah, this is going to be the back side of the card. Grab a little bit of that orange. Okay. Now I'm going to rinse my brush. Dry it off really good. And I think I'm going to just, that's still wet, so just going to dance that around a little bit just to blend off some of the rough edges. go. Okay. I'm liking that. It's not as strong of a contrast that I usually work with, but I was planning on it being just a little bit lighter. We'll see how it goes. But I think the butterfly is going to look really cute on that. All right, we need to let that dry for a little bit, and then we'll come back. Okay, I think it's nice and dry. Now, of course, when you're working with this this type of paper, it's great for watercolors. Obviously, they use that quite a bit on here. But acrylics work on it as well. But once you finish all your painting, you want to put this, and once it dries, of course, really well, you want to place it maybe with a couple of books on top for a day or so. And then it will flatten out and be all nice and ready to send to some wonderful person. Okay, now we are going to apply. I did a pattern, but you can do this freehand because this is like I said, a real whimsical butterfly, and you can definitely do it freehand. So my pattern, I'm just gonna line it up at the top just so the font is pretty much lined out right. But again, if it's a little bit cockeyed, it won't hurt a thing because this is a Whimsy card. And it says, thank you for being a friend. So this would be something great. If a friend brought you some special thing, you could send them a nice little card. Now I'm using the dark color graphite paper because I'm going to do the lines of the butterfly in black. You're just going to slide that right underneath there. Using a stylus, or you can use a number 2 pencil. For that matter, you can even use a pen to transfer your pattern over to it. Now, since I've already got, normally I would do the font last, but since I've got this all lined out, I'm going to do it, all of it on here at the same time. So all I'm going to do is do a little bit of pressure. Quickly go over the letters. But it bears repeating, you can definitely do this freehand. You don't want to press, you want to keep some pressure as far as holding your pattern and your graphite paper in one spot. You don't want to press too hard because the graphite paper can come off on the background. But you can use, if that happens, you can use a pink eraser. Remember the good old pink erasers? Pink eraser that's on your pencil, and you can lightly erase off the marks. If by chance it smears, which I've had that happen before when I'm trying to erase, then just use your background color and cover it up, or put something there. All right, we're gonna do his little head, his little body. And keeping my hand here, I just wanna make sure everything's transferring over, because again, the darker side touches the surface, the lighter side touches your pattern. And yes, it's transferring just fine. Okay, got his body. We'll go ahead and do his antennas. And now for this big old wing. I'm not gonna do the inside of the wings. I'm just gonna freehand those lines. Always keeping your hand on the pattern. That way it doesn't slip on you. I think I've got all the wings on there. I do. Okay. And graphite paper is used countless times. Just literally countless times. You just use that same piece over and over. And we'll put that aside. Now it's very similar to a coloring book. I'm going to do my black lines first. And if you didn't want to use black, being such a strong color, you could tone it down a little bit, make it into a medium gray. If you wanted to keep that pastel look, you could use a dark brown as a line, as your lines. All right, I'm going to water down my black a little bit to the consistency of Jell-O or liquid ink. We'll be using a liner brush to do the outline. I'll probably go ahead and do the font while I'm at it. Okay, there we go. And I notice I'm gonna have to get me some more liner brushes. These are getting pretty worn because I use them so often. Okay, when I'm doing font and using my liner brush, you know how I've always told you when you fill up your liner brush and then you twirl it off, you'll get that point, right? Well, when I'm doing font, I really want the bristles or the hairs to flatten out a little bit. Let me see if I can show you. So instead of twirling off, I'm gonna flatten it. So I get this flat marks for the letters. I hope that shows up well. Let's see if I can get a little closer. So just lay your liner brush down, apply very little pressure, and those bristles or hairs will line out to make a perfect mark to cover up the font. All right, so just lining it out. And I am going to put something over the butterfly so that way I don't smear the graphite paper while I'm doing the font. And I don't know if you're going to be able to see it, me doing it that way. Just easy does it. And right there where I messed up, I just make that a little bit bigger. And once it dries, I'll go back over it with a little bit of an eraser to catch any marks I didn't cover. What I love about this, it's homemade. And hopefully the person will keep the card forever. Usually I've got to get a little closer to see when I'm doing font. But if I get it too close, you won't be able to see it. All right, I'm gonna stop there and I'll finish that offline. Yeah, okay. Now, to do the butterfly, this you can swirl. So dip your paintbrush, your liner brush in the black, and then swirl it off. Just going to come in here, outline his little body. It doesn't have to be perfect. Remember, this is just a whimsy Sunday afternoon project. But I've been looking at tons of ideas for Christmas cards. I'm really leaning towards doing, I've never done homemade Christmas cards before, so I'm really leaning towards doing that this year. Of course, each card could be totally different. That way you don't get bored with the same pattern over and over. Just straightening up that line a little bit. Get some paint, twirl it off. And what you're basically doing is a color book page. Alright, we're going to do the antennas real quick. So fill up your brush with black paint. And notice, I moved my project around just so I get the best angle. Fill up your paintbrush, twirl it off. And just barely lay it on that line. And when you're not used to doing lines, I think I've said this once in one of my videos, you can hold your breath. And when you do that, it does help get a better line. I know I said it in front of one of my grandkids one time, and they're like, "What? You hold your breath, Gran?" I said, "Yeah. You do a lot to paint." Okay, filling up my brush. Filling up my brush again, twirl it off. Almost done. Now I know normally we would speed this up, or folks speed their, I'm just not into speeding. I notice when I speed, I mess up too easily. Okay, freehanding my lines. So we have a line coming right across here. And once we paint in those items, those different wings, we're probably going to have to go back over the lines, and that's okay. Got one right here. Actually, there's two. And we've got a few right here. We have one right here. One down, almost down the middle, right there. Now once we finish the butterfly, we're gonna add, of course, finish the font, and then we will add some splatter, maybe a couple little flowers down here. We'll see how it goes. Getting my paintbrush rinsed out really good. Now I'm going to be using a number 3 round. This is a round brush that's pretty small, but it'll work in this size of our pattern. Now let's go back to our pink. Since it's already on our palette and it's watered down, I'm going to add a little bit more pink to it. Whoops. And then I'm going to grab a little bit of red because I need to make that pink a little stronger. Now again, if you want to keep yours in, just the pastel forms, you don't have to add that red. And you can lighten your pink a little bit more as well. This is almost like a maroonish pink color that I'm shooting for. Added a little bit of water to it. Now I'm not going to mess with that pink there. I may need it later. If I could keep that and that, and you can see both. Maybe not. I'm going to do this. Okay. So I'm going to use a combination here on the wing. The dark pink and you're filling it in just like you would a leaf. And while it's still wet, I'm going to grab a little bit of that lighter pink. I need to rinse my brush off, dry it off. Grab the lighter pink. Fill that in. And if I go out of the lines, I'll just go back and make the line a little bit broader. Hopefully you can see there's a little bit of a distinction between the two colors. All right, now using the light pink at the other side of the wing. And again, we'll probably have to go back over those black lines. Then I'm going to grab a little bit of the white. It's still wet on my palette. And it's going to go about midway. A little bit more white. And always remember, y'all, when you're working on a painting, let me tell you, I'm just going to dab this into the pink right there. I don't need it to blend perfectly. I just let it meet up. But when you're working with paint and it's just getting so frustrating because of course it dries pretty fast this time of the year. And it's not flowing. See, paint should flow. You got to take that moment, stop, and water your paints down. And you really can water paints down. I'm just doing the light pink again. You can water paints down about 3 times before you start messing up with losing the pigment, the stronger colors. just dabbing it in to that white area. Grabbing a little bit more white. Just gonna brush that in. Doesn't have to blend. And the start and stop strokes of your brush is okay too. I just want to make sure I've got good coverage of that light pink. We're going to add a little bit more line work there after that dries. Looks like I missed a little spot right there, so I'm going to go back over it. But when you go back over something, you want to go further than what the spot is. See, I went ahead and took it right to the lines. That way, if it dries a little bit different, it'll look okay. All right, now we need a smidge of blue on our palette. And the blue I'm working with right now is called Navy Blue by Delta Ceramicoat. And it is super dark. So I'm just gonna do a small spot on my palette, and I've got some white right here. Just a little touch of that blue. Mixed in with that white. And you can add more white to yours if you need it to stay in the pastel family. Okay, so part of this wing here, probably hold it up for both of us. Part of this wing is blue. Oh, good. You should be able to see that even better. I know I am. I was thinking about eventually getting to where I can do a live and everybody could just join in. I could tell you ahead of time what the project is so you can have all your materials on hand. But I don't know how much painting we would get done. All the chitter chatter, I don't know. Of course, I'm sure I'll be the one chitter chattering. Okay, we wanted blue on that one, and since I've got my blue going, I'm gonna grab my liner brush again. I'm gonna do one of those lines. Oh, not that liner brush, that one's way too thin. Oh, there it is. I'm filling up my liner brush, twirling it off. And I'm going to do this middle line here. And this may not be your cup of tea, but you can even practice still life on these greeting cards, or any surface for that matter. You could, again, do holiday cards. Birthday cards. Of course, I never really got into it that much back in the day because I always thought, well, you know, some people don't understand art and the time it takes you to pull it together and the heart and soul you put into it. And what if they just threw my card away? Oh my goodness. That would disturb me greatly. At least that's what I used to think. Now, I don't care. I don't care. Oh, that reminds me of what my son used to, oh my gosh, he used to get in so much trouble for, I'd say, Billy, what are you doing? You're gonna get in trouble. I don't care. Okay, whatever, dude. All right. We're going to just go white right here. Grabbing a little bit of my white with my number 3 round brush. All I'm doing is covering, I'm putting white on here, and it's just covering up the background that we did. And if you made your lines thicker than what you wanted, you could paint over them several times and they'll go away. So like that line was kind of thick. If I go over it several times with my white, I can make that line a lot thinner. Let's see here, we've got going into the light pink. Gonna fill up that little spot right there. Oh, can you imagine doing a whole box of greeting cards and give to someone as a gift? Wouldn't that be cool? All right, just using my liner brush for that small area. Always trying to choose the right brush for the work that you're doing. In this case, a small area, just a liner brush works just fine. Almost reminds me of baby socks. Okay, we need that dark, I'm using that dark pink color again. The pink mixed with the red. And I'm gonna come in here. And I'll fill that in. Now, I could switch brushes now that I've got the small section out of the way, and it would make life a little easier, but I'm not going to. I'm just gonna keep working it with my little liner brush. And again, you want to brush over while it's still wet, so you don't have clumps of paint, because once that dries, well, you could sand it off, but who wants to do that to their work? So just filling it in. Getting as close to the line as I can. Okay. I need to go let the dog out. I'll be back in a minute. Okay. I went ahead and finished filling in the medium pink to the light pink, blue over here, yellow up here, and orange. The yellow and the orange that we used for the background color, it's the same one you want to use there. Now for the body, we're going to grab a little bit of the light pink. And just fill in half of it. Well, not quite half. Or half, it doesn't matter. His little head is blue. using my liner brush for a small area like that. And then the rest of his body is blue. Again, using my liner brush, making sure you can see this. Usually for something this small, or most, I guess you could say, medium patterns, I usually try to do the outline first and then fill it in before it has a chance to dry. I did go back over the blue. It was a little bit more splotchy than what I wanted. So I went back over my blue before I came back on camera. Okay. Now we can add a few more lines and then clean up our other lines. Let's see, that's the dark blue. I think I still have my palette with my black, yes. Now since it's had a lid on it, but it's been sitting over there, I'm gonna go ahead and water it down again. We need that to flow nicely. A little bit of water on your stir brush. Okay. We're going to add a line right between the dark pink and the light pink. We're going to add a line right here, just off kilter. It doesn't matter. And I'll straighten up my lines when I'm not on camera. That way I can still, y'all can still focus in on what I'm doing here. Adding another line. This almost reminds me of a quilt. This is stitch line. Little short stitches right into that line right there. We'll straighten up these two lines where the white went over it. All right, we've got those lines. I need to go back over those. Let's do a line between the blue and the pink on his body. Okay, we're doing the same thing. We're going to do a stitch pattern down this blue part of his wing. And that one's got its line. And that one's got a line. Okay. See, like I said earlier, it is definitely a whimsy. A whimsy project. All right. I'll rinse my brush off real good. Dry it off. All right, all I did was straighten up some of my lines and went over that blue one more time and then finished the saying at the top. And now we're just gonna add, oh, I wanna say a few dots here and there and then splatter it. You can sign it if you want to, and we'll call it done. And once it dries, after about a day, I will lay it flat inside of a really thick book, and even put some more books on top, and after a couple of days, it'll be good to go. I love working on this paper. It's nice. Okay, we're gonna add, I've got a super thin liner brush, and this one's called, it's a 10.0. It is very tiny, but it does those little stitches really well. And I think I'm gonna add, well, the first here, we're just gonna put a big old circle, just a freehand circle. As if it's a little bit of a button. And we'll add 2 little dots to that. Well, let's add one more circle within a circle. Again, this is freehand, easy going. Now 2 little dots, kind of mimic a button. I'm gonna do the same thing up here. We'll do a circle. Load your brush, twirl it off, do another circle. And since that has a line in it, we'll just leave it at that. We won't add the little buttonholes. All right, let's do one more button. Nice big one right here. Another circle. Again, it can be off kilter a little bit, doesn't matter. This is just an easygoing project for a Sunday. And if you wanted a few more little things flying around there before you splatter, the easiest little insect you can do, super easy, and that's grab a little bit of the black with your liner brush, and all you do is a line, a little wing, a little wing, and just add one little spot for the other antenna, because part of his body is really actually, we're going to use as an antenna there. All right, let's add one more on this side. A wing, another little wing. And you can do that all over it if you wanted to. I think I'm gonna add one more stripe over here on this side. Just for the fun of it. All right, we're gonna add 2 dots at the top of his antenna, and the way you can do that is use your smallest, the handle of your brush, or you can use your stylus. Where's my silver one? Like for this one, it's really super tiny, so I wouldn't use that one because it really wouldn't show up very well. And the cats are probably been up here. They have a way of oh, there it is. I blame the cats for it. But this stylus here would work too as a little dot. Let's see if you can see that. But I'm gonna use the handle of this small brush and just dip it right into the paint and just touch the top of the antenna. Filling it with paint one more time, touch the other side. All right, using our background colors that we had, where's my tape? Get my tape real quick. Okay. I always have this Scotch tape on hand for a lot of reasons, but one of them is to cover up my thumbnail when I'm going to do a splatter using an old toothbrush, or you could use your husband's. No, I'm kidding, I'm kidding. He'd be like, honey, why's my paintbrush, my toothbrush looking like a paintbrush? All right, so I'm going to wet my toothbrush in the water for a minute and then dab it off on your paper towel. We don't want it dripping. Well, of course, it is kind of watercolor paper, so I guess you could have it drip, and that would look just fine. And I'm going to, I need some of that, a little bit of that dark pink. And of course, if it's wet, it's going to drip a little bit better. I'm gonna dab it off one more time, and then just take this. Using my thumbnail, I'm going to just scrape across the bristles. I guess this would be a good time. You could just let it drip on there and let it dry. Okay, grabbing a little bit of that dark blue and darken my light blue up a little bit. I played with pastels long enough. I've got to go get my contrast. Okay, using a little bit of dark blue. We just splatter that. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That's a lot of splattering. I think that'll work. No wonder people like watercolors. Your paint probably never dries out. I think that's awesome. Okay, we're gonna let that dry, and then again, it's gonna go in a book for a few days after it dries, so it flattens all back out again. And oh my goodness, you could do boxes. They would, to me, they would make a great gift for somebody, a fun gift, that they have your artwork and they get to give it in a birthday present, you know, or with a Christmas present. All right, I hope y'all enjoyed that little ditty for a Sunday afternoon, and I'll be back in maybe a day or two. We'll start a new project. Thank you so much. Y'all don't forget, please like and subscribe on my channel. And in the description will be my email address if you're interested in buying the surfaces that we use in each session. I'll have different size boards, different size canvases, of course, these greeting cards that have an envelope that goes with them. What else? Graphite paper, sea sponge, and patterns. So all that would come in your kit, and it will coincide, of course, with the tutorials that you're watching. But if you have any questions at all, please don't hesitate. Shoot me an email or make a comment on YouTube, and I will get to you as soon as I can. All right, have a good evening.